We'll start with Morgan. In my opinion, the only reason we're in Syria is because Bush got us into Iraq, then Obama got us out too early, and ISIS took over. So Trump and Mattis came in, bombed the heck out of the caliphate, basically eliminated the caliphate, and Mattis wants to stay and try to secure the peace and hold the allies' hands, and Trump's thinking to himself, you know what? We got in, we got it done, let's get out. Is that true?
I think that's a fair assessment. I think it's important to look at Syria and Afghanistan as two very different conflicts. One of the most important things that any president has to do, especially when they're committing young men and women's lives, is to explain why we're there and what the mission is. This president has said, even before he ran for president, as long as he's been in public life, that he is very wary of getting the U.S. entangled overseas. He had a very clear mission. What I think we really need as a follow-up action from this announcement is really a plan from the president, his national security team on when we're leaving, how we're going to secure. We have a lot of assets on the ground there, like military equipment that could fall into the hands of the Iranians. And I also want to know from the president, how do we now counter Iran? Because he had a countering Iran strategy that I applauded as one of the most important things he would do.
I think you counter Iran not by fighting a proxy war in Syria. That's the president's opinion. I think there's other ways to contain the Iranians than fighting basically in Russia's backyard, in Russia's little puppet regime. It doesn't have to be in Syria. Is that the president's thinking, Corey?
Well, look, I know this, Jesse. I know the president wants to make sure that when we fight our enemies, we're doing it on their home turf and not on ours, and that's very important. But you also have to ask yourself the question, how long are we going to keep our troops overseas in Afghanistan? We've been there 6,000 days, if you can imagine that. Over 6,000 days. In Syria, the question is, we have destroyed and decimated those insurgents over there, but how long are we going to keep our military assets over there, and how important is it for the United States to remain there? And I understand generals' positions. They want to keep our men and women in those places for strategic reasons. But as an American citizen, I want to bring our men and women home and make sure we're only deploying them when they have the best interests of the United States in mind.
Well, usually when America gets involved in foreign wars, we win and then we leave troops there in order to sustain the peace and just kind of as a bulwark against any further aggression. But this president doesn't want to do it that way. He doesn't see that in the U.S. national interest, and he thinks to himself, why are we fighting alongside the Kurds? Does that what America blood and treasure? Does it need to be spilled fighting alongside the Kurds? And he's also thinking to himself, listen, we can go back in if we need to and bomb them again. But why sustain boots on the ground in Syria for year after year after year? Does it really make sense, Morgan?
Well, I think that's an incredibly complicated question. First of all, when it gets to the Kurds, the reason why there's a lot of people that are concerned about that is because they have fought alongside it. They've been some of the most effective fighters in the Middle East against ISIS. You are right, Jesse, that we can go back in, and we did have to do that in the Obama administration when we saw ISIS flare up in Iraq. I think the conversation that the president is having with the American people is overdue and is incredibly important, where we have to...
Do you think he should give a televised address about the Middle East strategy in Afghanistan and Syria?
Absolutely. I mean, what a lot of people don't know is that we actually have more ongoing operations in Africa than in the Middle East right now. So I think there's a lot as it relates to foreign policy that the American people need to understand. And I think there's a lot of people, look, if you look at the latest polling on American sentiment on Afghanistan, depending on the poll, there's only 20 to 25% of Americans that really understand our mission there and support it. I'm very supportive of what we've done in Afghanistan. I'm on the board of the American University in Afghanistan. I believe in this, but the president is right to be very concerned about the amount of money that we have spent in Afghanistan and in Syria, but more in Afghanistan. We have spent billions of dollars, and we've corrupted that place in many ways with the amount of cash.
It's been a mess. Afghanistan's a mess. Everybody knows that, and I think Corey in Syria, he's saying, why are we paying all this money to protect Syria's borders? Let's bring the troops home and protect our own borders. But I can also see the flip side. I can see, hanging allies out to dry. What kind of message does that send to people in the Middle East that want to fight alongside of us?
You know, Jesse, our allies know that we're going to stand beside them whenever they call us to do it. But, you know, having a permanent military presence overseas in places around the world continuously is something that this president wants to reevaluate and should be rightly done so. You know, when you look at Afghanistan, just in the last couple of weeks, we've had 3 more U.S. soldiers killed over there when their Humvee blew up because they drove over an IED. The 4th individual is up at Walter Reed. Look, they don't want us there, and I understand that. And as it brings back the issue of legal immigration, we have to make sure we're protecting our borders, Jesse. And if that means using our military to build a wall on the southern border so we're protecting Americans first, that has to be the priority of the president. And then we have to reevaluate our forward deployments around the world to make sure that our men and women in uniform have the tools necessary to be successful. But there should be no commitment to have a permanent military presence in Afghanistan, where we've been for over 6,000 days.
Right. All right. So let's move on, because you mentioned earlier the people in this country's feeling about Syria. No one really supports boots on the ground in Syria, and the polls show that. Another very interesting poll, this is from Gallup, the country's top problems, besides me. We took that out of there. We just didn't want to personalize it, Morgan. 19% believe government is the biggest problem in America. 19%, followed by immigration, and then unifying the country. Morgan, what do you think people mean when they say government is the problem specifically?
Well, look at today. Look, you know, and what we seen over the past few days that relates to the border wall. I mean, you have, you know, Trump, you know, the president saying that he will shut down in order to get this border security, and Senator Schumer going, no, it's your shutdown. I mean, and you have 2, you know, grown adults sniping at each other. This is going on in the Congress, you know, between all of the leadership. So when the average American is tuning into Fox News and they're watching, you know, the congressional leadership just bicker with each other, it looks like a bunch of overgrown, entitled children. And that's why the president was elected, to disrupt all of this.
Not like us. We're very mature adults. We never bicker, Corey and Morgan. We hold ourselves to the highest level of conversation. It could be a couple of things, though, Corey. It could be, as Morgan said, people look at Washington being dysfunctional over a shutdown or a border wall. It could be people thinking, you know, the government's corrupt, that, you know, they've spied on this president. There's people within the administration that are still continuing to try to undermine this president. They could look at the Democrats and say the Democrats in the Congress and the Senate, they haven't done enough to stop the Trump agenda. It could be a whole host of things that, you know, I'm just mad at the government. I'm not getting my check soon enough. You know, my check's not big enough. It could be everything. So we don't really know what it is. What do you think it is?
Look, Jesse, I think it's the American people, by and large. Here's what they want. They want safety and security at home, which means let's protect our country. They want roads and bridges they can drive on. So let's get a transportation and infrastructure spending bill done so bridges aren't falling down around our country. And also, let's give access to health care across state lines. Look, the government has been stopping this. The bureaucrats in the government, those holdovers from one administration to the other. Let's make it so people can buy their health insurance across state lines so that they can be more competitive in the market.
I agree with that. It's not even
the problem.
It's not even the bureaucrats. That's half of it. The other half of it are the monopolies. These guys, these big insurance companies, they don't want competition across state lines. They want to be able to sell individual policies and compete against maybe 1 or 2 people in one state. Because once those borders are opened up across the state lines, prices are going to come down, and they're going to have to compete and make less money. All right, let's turn to the media. I'm surprised the media wasn't at the top of the list for the country's biggest problems. I blame Gallup for that. Maybe they didn't ask the right question. Let's play this media montage of just a kind of a vicious attack on the Trump family. Watch.
He seems to be Fredo. This is the first time that we have Ivanka, which is like the only kid he likes, like in the crosshairs. The only way we're really going to get to Trump is if you go after his kids.
You can't indict a sitting president, but it doesn't say anything about a sitting president's daughter.
The president's children stand right in the line of Mueller's investigative progress. If the prosecutor will not be stopped and the kids will not fall to him, we see the president's adult children heading to prison. But what if the prosecutor were to offer the president an alternative? That would mean giving up the presidency in exchange for acquittals all around, not just for himself, but for all his kids.
Wow. Kind of sickening if you hear. I mean, you can kind of feel the bloodlust. I mean, they want to lock up Don Jr., Ivanka, probably Eric, probably Barron, probably put Barron in juvie. I mean, the way things are going, Morgan, it's kind of sad. I mean, it's just anybody that watches that's kind of sickened by it.
It is. I mean, to top it all off, they were making fun of the First Lady's Christmas card this week. And let me just say that anyone who was making fun of how Melania Trump looked in that white dress is just insanely jealous, as was I when I looked at it, because she looked like perfection. The reason why they're going after the children is because I think that they're worried that they may not be able to get the president.
I agree with that. I think that's the best, closest thing they can get. If they can't get the president, Corey, they're going to try to get Don Jr. or someone close.
Well, of course, because if you remember, this whole Russia collusion narrative is how they're going to bring down the president. Now the Bob Mueller investigation has shown that there was no Russia collusion whatsoever, and the president had not ever cooperated or coordinated with the Russians. So now they have to go after Don Jr. or Ivanka or somebody else because they can't put their hatred of this president in front of their love for the country. It's so disappointing and disingenuous what they have done to this family that really, look, I think if you look at where the media's approval ratings are, they're in the low single digits, right around hovering about where Congress is these days.
I know. It's pretty pathetic. Do you think, Morgan, that they're trying to send a signal? Because we remember the president said that if you do go after my children in any way, I mean, that's the red line. That is the red line. Would that trigger firing Mueller or something along those lines? Is that what they're trying to precipitate?
Well, they've already gone after his children. If you look at what the newly elected New York Attorney General said, and she's politicizing the prosecutor's office in a way that I think the Constitution never. I mean, she's going after the foundation. She's going after the business, the children.
Anything Trump on it, she's going after the wine, she's going after the steaks, she's going after the water.
I think that
everything's gone.
There is, you know, I'm concerned for the family in the sense of it's not just about Mueller in this investigation. I think that they're going to put these kids through hell, right, through litigation hell over many years, beyond past his presidency. And so it's unfortunate to see that, you know, the president has not stuck his attorney general or the acting one after the Clintons and their family. There's reportedly some new investigations. But if that's what we're going to do is just to politicize these prosecutors' office to go after families, woe be it to the Democrats whenever it's
I'll give you the last word, Corey. This does remind me of whenever the lock her up chants happened, the people in the media said, oh, you can't say that. You can't say that. But when I look at that montage we just played, that's exactly what they're chanting, basically. About children.
Jesse, the media, look, very, very candidly, the media is jealous of the Trumps, and they have been since the day he came down that escalator. All of his success in the real estate world, all of his success on television, now his success in politics, and his family's success. Look, if Ivanka Trump was a Democrat, she'd be on the cover of every magazine as the woman to look to, the woman of the year. The same is true with Melania Trump. But the mainstream media does not want to give this family the credit they deserve, including the success in prison reform that Ivanka Trump and Jared Kushner pushed through the U.S. Senate in a bipartisan manner this time, the first time in a decade to reform the prison system. They did that, and the media won't give them any credit for it.
Yeah, the media is probably saying they're trying to get prison reform because they're probably going to be in prison. That's how they're probably trying to spin it. All right, Corey, Morgan, thank you guys very much, and Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.